We talked about my self-created negotiation A/B exercise in our last video, and what the goals of this negotiation exercise was. We also talked about how you should try and experience the negotiation mindset of strong and weak negotiators, both of which you will experience through this exercise. In this video, we will talk about the 3-stage process to kickstart this negotiation exercise. Stage 1 is choosing an industry that is familiar to both you and your opponent to negotiate on. That is, reflect on your work experience and interests. This will allow the both of you to set up the necessary and accurate parameters to frame the negotiation scenario. If needed, you can also do some extra research on various industries to come up with a more realistic negotiation scenario. Some realistic scenarios can include negotiating on the expansion of a factory, negotiating on a reduction of prices with contractors, and negotiating on a salary increase with an employer.
Before we continue on this video, I'd just like to tell you guys that I, the founder of Life Solvers, and my team of professional business negotiators have been appointed by top company executives and individuals before to provide professional negotiation and HR training and consulting. For more information, just look at the description and feel free to drop me an email or WhatsApp. Let's continue the video.
After setting up the parameters and coming up with a business negotiation scenario that makes sense, select either position A or position B. Again, position A means that you will be negotiating from a position with more power, and vice versa for position B. This is stage 2 of the preparation phase. In the meantime, start brainstorming on possible negotiation scenarios, which is the final stage of the 3-stage preparation process. An important note is to make sure that what you are negotiating on is realistic, yet simple enough so that you are only negotiating with another party. This exercise is not designed for 3 or more negotiation parties, since the point of this A/B exercise is for you to experience the difference in mindsets of somebody who is in a position of strength as well as in a position of weakness. If you wish to find complex negotiation exercises that involve 3 or more parties, you may go online and visit the Harvard Business School, where they have designed complex negotiation exercises. Some other tips when coming up with a realistic negotiation scenario is to figure out the reasons and goals behind a negotiation. Make a list of these with your partner, and as mentioned above, set up a few realistic parameters for this negotiation to be based on, so that the negotiation doesn't go off rail. After selecting your character and finalizing the negotiation scenario, spend 15 to 20 minutes on your own to figure out your preferred negotiation outcome, demands, possible concessions, as well as how you will approach the negotiation. Afterwards, start negotiating with your partner. It may seem daunting and awkward to negotiate in an artificial negotiation setting, but remember that the key is for you to experience and reflect on your mindset during negotiations, become comfortable in asking for demands, reject concessions, and get what you want in the end. After negotiating, immediately switch sides with your partners and follow the above process. After finishing 2 rounds of negotiations, reflect with your partner on what could have been done better. In particular, ask each other how you both felt during the negotiations and what your respective mindsets were in position A and position B. This brings us to the first outcome of this negotiation exercise. understanding the differences and mindsets in various negotiation positions. Perhaps you might be more aggressive than you thought when negotiating from position A, or perhaps you might be more scared than you thought you would be when faced with a barrage of demands from your opponent when you're in position B. Based on my experience, people who participate in this exercise will often be taken aback by how different they would react during negotiations compared to how they thought of themselves in real life. Some people are born negotiators, but more oftentimes than not, we are more vulnerable than we think we are when we first start negotiating seriously. The key takeaway is to figure out how and why you behaved during the negotiations, and how you can improve your mindset going into further negotiations. The second outcome from this exercise is to learn how to deal with pressure. There are typically a few categories of where pressure comes from in negotiations. The pressure of asking too much or too little, as well as the pressure of succumbing to demand and making concessions. My key takeaway when I first tried out this exercise is how much and how quick I conceded once my opponent began making demands, especially if my opponent was from a position of strength. To be a good negotiator, I always stress the importance of standing your ground, which comes from believing what you're asking for. Always remember your purpose of coming into negotiations and never concede if you feel you are treated unfairly. Pressure can do weird things to even the strongest of negotiators. The key to improving as a negotiator is the ability to think straightly and logically in the face of adversity. You must always be aware of not just your own feelings, but how your opponent is feeling and how the negotiation surroundings or circumstances are changing. This is so that you can learn never to bow down under pressure, though obviously easier said than done. Finally, our recommendation for you is to just keep on practicing negotiation. It sounds lame, but that is the only way you will improve. Through the negotiation A/B exercise I have outlined in this video, try and become more aware of your psychological changes when faced with demands and concessions. More often than not, a negotiation's success is determined by how you respond to such demands, threats, and concessions. That is, whether you manage to hold your ground under the pressure of giving in. As I always say, one must learn to resist the pressure of giving in to become a successful negotiator. Although obviously one must also learn to realize when he or she should be giving appropriate concessions, which is another topic we will cover in the future. Hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in our next one.